Hey Tamily, welcome to interview 165. Our guest for today is Bianca, and her Instagram name is Bianca Marie underscore 333. So make sure you're following her. And of course, we have some questions planned, but we love taking questions from the chat. So please type them in at any time, and we'll be connected with Bianca in just a second. I love that people are already joining. Hello.
Hello. I'm upside down. Let me change.
Okay, I can change it too if you want.
Okay. There we go. There we go.
Now we're on the same planet.
Now we're in there like swimwear. Okay.
Thank you so much, Bianca, for being interview 165. We're so excited to talk to you.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited. Let's get situated.
All right. So we've already got lots of people joining in the chat. So, of course, we'll take their questions when we can. But we want to get started with our favorite question, which is when and how did you get involved with the Tracy Anderson method?
Okay. So how I got involved with the method was I was looking at a cover of Jennifer Lopez. I think it was like Harper's Bazaar or something like that, where she had the green thing on and like half her body was out. And I was like, what is she doing? Because she is aging in reverse. And she was about to be 50. So I'm like, I'm just trying to be on whatever she's on. It wasn't about like looking like her or anything, but I was just like, wow, she looks great. So then I just went to Google and was like, what does Jennifer Lopez do for working out? Because it was more about like how her body looked. And so then it just popped up, you know, insert random article here. And she was talking about subscribing to the Tracy Anderson method. So I guess she got with Tracy when she was filming like her booty video or something like that. And so then I also had a friend slash client who 13 years ago, after I just had my daughter, she was telling me about, she's like, hey, have you ever heard of Tracy Anderson? And I was like, no. And at that point, like I just had a baby. I wasn't thinking about anybody's workout. Like I was just trying to survive as like a new mom. And she was like, oh, her arms are really great. And I'm like, all right. So fast forward, we're back, we're looking up J-Lo. And I sent her a text. I was like, hey, dude, do you still do the Tracy Anderson method? And she was like, oh, I still do the arms. She doesn't really do like the workout. And I was like, all right, do you think it's good? And she's like, yeah, I've been doing it for years. So that's where it started. And so she was like, you know, do some research. So I did tons of research on the internet, like as much as I possibly could, which there's not a ton out there about Tracy as far as like written. And so I stumbled on the bootleg version of the original Matt video on YouTube. She told me, she was like, go to YouTube and there's some stuff on there. So I just started there. And yeah, from there, I started incorporating it. I was a runner at the time and started incorporating it like 1 to 2 days a week. And I was surprised at how difficult it was, like to keep my arms up. She's like, keep your arms up because you can. And I'm like, but I can't. And I did it with no weight for a while. And then I was using water bottles because I was traveling at the time. And then I started doing that about 3 days a week. And then I got into metamorphosis. And I did that for a couple of months and worked my way up to doing like 6-7 days a week. And at that point, streaming was like, you know, I'm on Instagram. I'm starting to like, you know, like watch this stuff, follow people who are doing the method. And then I was like, well, let me just try this streaming subscription, which I knew once I tried it, I was going to be like, you're totally going to do it. And started with beginner, was addicted. And at that point, I decided that if I was going to commit to streaming, because at that point in time, I would say that just with life and work in general, I wasn't sure if I could really afford it. And then I was like, you know what? Like, you really love doing this. It's part of your life now. Like, you should make the investment in yourself. And so the rest is history. Started at beginner. Now we're here.
That's fantastic. What an awesome journey. So what kind of results did you see, like not just physically, but also non-physical results, especially since you were active before the method as well?
I noticed more balance in, and this is something I wouldn't have been able to articulate necessarily at the time. It's something that in hindsight that I can say that I noticed. But at the time, I'd taken on a new job. So this was like the top of 2019. And it required a lot of travel. So I live in Atlanta, Georgia. It required me to go to Chicago every other week for a week to onboard for this job. So I was working out and trying to meal prep. That's a whole other story. But doing the method, which was great. It traveled great. And so it was a very high stress time, or could be a high stress time. And I noticed that I just had way more balance in my thoughts and how I operated. Like I didn't feel, there was a lot going on, but it didn't feel necessarily overwhelming. It felt more exciting, and just carving out that time every single morning would just set me up to be like, get that like kind of nervous energy out, because I'm a facilitator, so I'm a hairdresser, but I was teaching hairdressers. So it's a lot of like getting on stage, and you kind of have to like get those jitters out and stuff like that. So I would say that the mind connection was something that was very unexpected, but obviously hugely beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the way that you say, like, you can't necessarily articulate it when it's first happening, because that is so unexpected. And no one really says, like, oh, join this method, it's going to change the way your brain works. But it really does.
It really does.
That's the level that's just unbelievable. So awesome for you sharing that journey with us. So how do you regularly get yourself or stay motivated to keep fitness, and especially nutrition as well, into the balance of your life?
It's been a journey. So I've been at this fitness food thing for about a decade, honestly. So I've really had to find my speed with it. But I'm one of those people that gets motivated by what would happen if I didn't do it. Mm-hmm. So are there days where I don't feel like working out? Absolutely. But it's your mind, kind of messing with you. And so last year, 2020, I committed to, I'm going to work out every day, because the method allows you to do that in a way that doesn't overwork you or anything. So I wasn't going hard in the paint every day. So, I would do beginner on days where I was feeling a little bit light, and just take it easy, sometimes no weights. But I would think of, so what happened with that was, by doing it every day, it's a mind-body connection. And so my body got used to doing it. So at this point, if I don't work out, unless I plan to, like on Sundays, I tend to take a rest day. But if I don't work out, my body starts acting weird. Like, it's like, what are we doing? Like, we're supposed to do this. And, you're like out of whack. It's kind of like getting in the car and driving home from work. Like, you can do it on autopilot. You don't even think about it. But say traffic's messed up and now you got to reroute. Your body's like, what's going on? So that was one thing. It was a programming. It was conscious programming, I would say. And then from there, it's like I said, it's what would happen if I didn't do it. I love food like so much. It's a pastime for me, actually. Like, it's like a hobby. So I like to eat a lot. And so when I know that I've done something physical with my body, then I don't feel bad about whatever it is I'm going to eat later, because I feel like I'm just like, kind of at a status quo. Now, if there's other goals that I got in mind, that's different. And that too, like the results of how I look. So I like to, I think the goal is you want to look good naked. So I just like to look good, like in the mirror, and just, feel good about what I'm doing. But mostly it's if I don't go do this, I'm going to feel this way. The negative self-talk starts to creep in. And when you work hard at this method, because if you show up for this method 2 times a week, 3 times a week, it's not easy. And so when you do that for yourself, it just gives you that level of confidence that you can do it again and again and again, and it becomes a safe space. So it's not like life hasn't thrown me some curveballs, over the past couple of years. And so I look at the mat as like, okay, well, even if I'm physically tired, I got options here. I don't have to use the weights. I can, maybe dial the workout down a little bit. I don't have to do cardio. Like, you can just make some certain adjustments to fit how you're feeling. Sometimes I'll do an easier or lighter workout just because mentally I'm just not there, even though physically I probably could be. So I look at the mat as like, this is my time, my moment. Like, my kids know, nobody talks to me, nobody bothers me. So
that's excellent.
That
I think you're totally right. Like, knowing what the options are, but having that honest conversation with yourself about, you know, what can you really handle that day, or pushing yourself when you know that you can do it. You have a very cool mug, so I just have to call that out.
Thanks. Turtle power.
Yeah. So what would your advice be to someone that is new to the method or new to the Tamily?
I would say to stick with it. Keep your arms up. You totally can do it. The hydrants get easier at a certain point in time. If you're new to the method, definitely do the research. Try not to listen to a lot of the chatter that's out there. The Tamily is very, very supportive, which it's a community that it was so unexpected for me. Like, first of all, a group of women that continue to support each other all the time in a way of positivity. I mean, I was like, okay, I'm very protective of that too, and protective of Tracy and the method. So it's a great group to be in. But do the research and do it how Tracy and the trainers tell you to do it. Don't try to go off and do your own like modifications and you know, I mean, modifications in that maybe lighter weights or no weights or whatever that is. But I'm a firm believer, even in my industry, you have to know the rules before you can start to break the rules. So I would say people that have been doing like AMC and advanced do different things than people in beginner, because there's a different, they understand the method so deeply that they can take some of those perceivable risks, like, you know, so they can do certain things that you as a beginner probably shouldn't do. So just be true to what they are saying, like really pay attention to her angles, where her hands are, where her hips are facing, and then do the breakdowns. Like I don't understand when people don't watch the breakdown, but you know, do the breakdowns, because you may think you need to pull or launch from a certain place, and that's not actually what the intention is. So if you do that and do it 5 to 7 days a week, you will get maximum results.
And that's such a good point too, because you know, while everyone is different and at different places when they first join the method, you keep learning about yourself and your mind body connection. And a lot of the time you think, well, I'm lifting this leg, and so I should feel this going on with this leg. And it's really actually so much more about every muscle in your whole body. Like, and I just feel like you get to another level of awareness maybe as you keep doing it.
Absolutely.
So you're totally right.
Absolutely. And by the way, you don't know what it's supposed to be because you didn't make the method. So I go by that too. So I'm like, oh, I should be feeling it here. You don't really know where you should be feeling it until they tell you where you should be feeling it.
Yeah.
So just trust the process. But yes, definitely a huge level of awareness that comes that is so unexpected. And you know, I've done a lot of different fitness over the years, and you just don't get that from, you know, no shade, but just being in a squat rack. Or maybe you do, you know, if you're focusing on certain things, but it's just it's a little bit different.
So what is your routine now? Like, what workout do you do, and how do you fit it into your life?
So my cat's wanting to talk too. So I wake up very early, about 4:30. I'm really trying to back that up to 4, just for more time. Because I got kids, so they got to go to school. So I get up about 4:30. I journal like first thing, meditate, and then I jump into the workout. So I'm usually trying to hit the mat around 6 o'clock. Unless I'm off, I may push that a little bit later, like take the kids to school, come back kind of thing. But if I have to go to work, or I have to be somewhere, 6 a.m. is when I'm pretty much hitting the mat. And right now I am hardcore intermediate. So I was in beginner, did intermediate last year, jumped into advanced actually for a while. And I used to write reviews on advanced over on one of the Facebook pages. And then it became abundantly clear. This was an ego shot for myself, because muscle wise, and I think we're conditioned as a society, especially here in America, is like, you've got to get straight A's, you've got to power through, like you've got to be perfect, and you need to be striving for the next thing. So physically I could hang in advanced, but I was struggling with the energy management, which is a whole other facet of the method that is just, you have to explore that for yourself. So I wasn't really confident in the fact that I was really getting the true benefits out of it. Plus I was getting a little bit of knee pain. So I was like, they're like, if you're experiencing pain, you need to dial it back. So I was like, you know what? let me just go back to intermediate and really just smash intermediate. Like, really go back to the fundamentals and truly, truly master it. Like, am I really hitting every angle? Can I get my leg up any higher? Can I really hang with the tempo or the reps or any of that stuff? So that's where I've been since, I would say, January or so, somewhere around then in the new year. And I've just been kind of hardcore into intermediate until it feels like she says, when you start to get kind of bored and you're like, kind of spacing off, or you get after like the second day or something. I'll even go back to beginner, which, by the way, beginner has been cranking up. Like, there's days of beginner I'm like, wow, that was intense. So I'll go back to that even to slow it down even more, to be like, hey, am I really in line, with the angles and stuff like that. But all in all, I would say I'm hardcore intermediate right now.
I think that's such good advice about thinking that way, because you're so right, especially in American culture. It's all about do the highest thing all the time. Don't let yourself relent. And I'm like intermediate for life right now. So I'm good with knowing how to do what I'm doing and like trying to execute to the fullest extent, rather than like getting into balance that just doesn't work, or, and continuing to build. And I think you're right too, especially with beginner, it is harder than it used to be. There are, more balanced moves and things like that. So people really need to find their right space and adjust if they need to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we have a question in the chat for you from Kim2M2, and she wants you to tell us about your Moxie coaching and show us your cat.
I love the show me your cat. Well, I have one cat over here. So Moxie coaching. So blanket statement is it's a life coaching certification. So it's a company that I'm affiliated with, actually through the company that I work for right now as a hairstylist or in the beauty business. And it really is about, I coach and develop stylists, and I have been for years, and teaching for years. But in breaking out of that and starting to do my own thing, I was like, I really want to understand what it's like to not coach to metrics or results. So when you work for a corporation, for those of you out there that do, when you're in a management position or anything like that, it's all about what they want to see. So you're coaching somebody based on like, we need to get these numbers up or whatever that looks like. When you're actually coaching people outside of that, it's not about your goals, it's about their goals. So through the Moxie process, we go through a lot of that. Like, it was a lot of revisiting for me, like core, like facilitation skills. And really it brings you to another level of like personal grounding, like understanding what your biases are and how to get rid of them when you talk to people. But then just real solid ways to properly ask questions to sort of guide people to their own answers. And then they also go into a lot of like what the back end of the business is like, from the financial standpoint, the legal standpoint, what a coach does, what a coach doesn't do. And I noticed with a lot of certification programs, they don't do that. They kind of throw you like a course and you click through, and there's not really a lot of like one-on-one. So we do a lot of live coaching and like back and forth. And so yeah, that was a really great experience. So it took what I already knew in the beauty business into my self-care coaching, and really just kind of added that extra cherry on top. And then as far as my cats, like my one cat, he's laying down here, so I'll have to like flip my screen because he doesn't like to be picked up. But his name is Francis. Is it flipping? Oh no, I turned the camera off. Like, really, dude? Okay, get here. All right, there he is. There he is. Oh, he's being a Thundercat. So yeah,
that's wonderful.
He's the VP of operations around here. So he's around to make sure that everything is going right.
I bet. I'm gonna start giving my dogs titles like that. So back to a little bit about the method. What has been some advice that you received during your journey with the method which was helpful to you?
I don't know, but it wasn't that anybody told me anything. It was just watching other people. So I'd say Loretta, Loretta Fitness Life, the cardio in between arms and the mat was the that was the game changer for me, because I was wanting to do more cardio or get into cardio. And like, you're like, how do you incorporate this? Because I don't know if y'all have been in Courtney's cardio or her arm section, but like, wow. So when you finish a whole mat workout and then try to jump into cardio, it's like kind of a lot, because you're like, I'm kind of tired. But then when you jump into cardio first, it feels like a lot, because you're just like immediately getting into it. So I found like the getting the arms is like a nice little like warm up, stretch out, and then jumping into cardio. So then when I hit the mat, like I'm fully stretched out and, you know, feel like I can move a little bit more, because it may not look like it, but I'm not as young as I used to be. So it sounds a little bit like Rice Krispies when I get started, like we're snap, crackle, and pop our way into those coupe lifts. So,
I always wonder, how would my body sound if I hadn't been doing this method 6 years? Like, I don't know. It's crazy. So how often do you do that with the cardio, and how much usually between arms and the mat?
Cardio, me and cardio, we go back and forth. So if I'm really feeling great, I try to do it like 3 times a week. But I do try to get in a couple of times. But you know what? Like, honestly, for a long time, like, I just did the mat because it's an hour, and I can guarantee that, like, when you start throwing in cardio, you have to allot more time. Sometimes I can do like the 15-minute ones. I really like to do more of the like 20 to 30-minute ones. So it's really just about like schedule permitting. And that's what I love about the method, is that it's funny, because people ask me, especially now, they're like, oh, are you in the gym you must work out all the time. And I'm like, I mean, not really. I mean, I work out 6 days a week. So, I mean, if that's all the time, yes, but I don't spend a lot of time in the gym. And I think that people think that you have to go and be in there 2-3 hours, and you just really don't. And that just speaks to the genius of the method.
Absolutely. So what would you say about like the whole meal prep aspect? Because just being like kind of, you know, one of your followers, I look at what you do with that and I'm like, it's just impossible. I don't know how anyone achieves the
meal prepping is not impossible. Shout out to Ice Cold Fitness. So the 2 biggest things in my life when it comes to my health is the Tracy Anderson method and Ice Cold Fitness. And so I started his meal prepping about the same time that I started the method, which with travel and things like that, it honestly wasn't a good time. So when I first got into it, the food wasn't as streamlined as it started to get. It was, and I went with him because you need somebody to teach you how to do it. I've tried for years to, like, you know, watch YouTube videos and piece things together and do all this stuff. And it really just took me literally getting a coach. And he also will go through and, you know, break down what your actual goals are, what you like to eat, and, you know, and he does all the macros and stuff, and like does all the measurements and things like that. So with the food prep, I've been doing that now, like how I do it now, like what you mostly see on Instagram, probably for about a year. So it really was, I was at home more, so I allotted the time, and that's where you have to figure out your space. So I cook on Sundays usually, Sundays and Wednesdays. Now, when I first started meal prepping, I would like cook all this different stuff, like all day Sunday, and like my kitchen was a wreck. And then, you know, at one point he was like, you know, you could break it up. And I was like, oh, because you don't want to eat like week old stuff. By the end of the week, you cook it on Sunday. By Friday, you're kind of like, And with the food part, where I really started being a believer, because for a long time I was I can out train a poor diet, and then the method was giving me validation. And so I was getting really good results with the method, but I had a hysterectomy at the top of this year in March. So before that, I had fibroids that were pretty bad, and I knew surgery was coming. So this was last October. And so I'd done like the original meal plan with him, where it was just kind of like, you know, it's more portion control, like you're eating well and stuff. And then I said to him, I was like, you know, I really want to get into shape. And also he's a professional bodybuilder. So I was thinking, I don't want to do bodybuilder workouts, right? We're hardcore TAM. But I wanted to see, like, in an experiment type of way, if I ate like a bodybuilder, what results would I get? So it was a twofold thing. So we got into it in October, and it was very streamlined. It's what we call like meal programming. So I eat the same food all the time in the same time and space. So I eat between 2 o'clock and 8 o'clock. So I'm on like an intermittent fasting thing. So what I noticed through that time, one of the goals was not only like we're talking about results, but just my health in general, because the fibroids had it to where, I mean, I had like almost no energy. I was anemic and, just like in pain a lot of the time. And I knew I was going to have to be down. And so I was like, I want to get as healthy as possible before I go to this surgery. So I had surgery in March. By the time I got there, and, I'm talking to the surgeon, so many of the symptoms that I had reduced significantly. So not only was I losing weight, was I getting crazy muscle tone and results, and the workout just, like, when you eat clean like that, your performance goes from, if you were at a 5, you're at like a 500, and your energy is like unmatched. So when you start to go back and like, do I have diet breaks? Of course. I love Chick-fil-A. So like, I love French fries. And so I already said, I love food. So I do have diet breaks. When you eat clean like that, it really changes a lot. Not only do you think really clear, like my skin changed, my hair changed, my nails, and, even like a lot of the issues that I was having with the fibroids subsided significantly. PMS wasn't as bad. And that was an unexpected side effect. So that was when I really started being a believer of the food and what it really does for your body. And of course, like, the results. So I obviously got through surgery. And one of the things they said, they were like, wow, you're like really healthy. I was like, thanks, guys. I've really been working at this. And so now, I'm a year or so into meal prep. I don't know how to not meal prep. It's just become so ingrained in my lifestyle. Were there days where I was completely exhausted and did not feel like grilling chicken? Absolutely. Were there days where I forgot that I had to get broccoli and I'm like, damn, I gotta run back out to the store and go get this broccoli? Because what happens then, I already said earlier, I'm motivated by what happens if I don't do it. So if I don't go do this, I'm gonna probably make a bad decision. So let me just go and get it out of the way and get it done. So now I don't necessarily do 7 days hardcore, because there was no days off. We did it for 3 months, and I did it every single day except Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's.
Oh, wow.
And when you really eat like that, little changes in flavor is like, wow. When you added peanut butter and Cheerios, which if you follow me, I melt peanut butter and put it on Cheerios all the time. That was just like it was like mind blowing. So yeah, I definitely am a huge fan of nutrition now.
Well, you definitely present it in an intriguing way. So I watched you with, of course, I haven't done it yet myself, but I'm like, oh, it's interesting. Deb would like to know what is in the giant mug that you're drinking out of.
Hot lemon water. With a little bit of honey. So if you've been following me, I kicked caffeine, and that was really, really tough. So yeah, hot lemon water. Also, I read the Clarity Cleanse by Dr. Sadeghi, and he talks about drinking lemon water. So I highly recommend incorporating that. But this is to I didn't drink coffee in the middle of the day, but it's kind of like adds to that ritual. So yes, it is sliced, fresh, organic, fresh sliced lemons, a little bit of honey, and just hot water.
Very, very healthy. That's the opposite of this being the second iced coffee. That I think this is like 40 ounces. Yeah.
It'd be like that sometimes.
Right. It's just, we all do what we can.
When my kids were little, I definitely was, if I could have an IV of coffee, I definitely would have had it. Yeah.
So do you have a motivational quote that you would like to share with the Tamily?
Yes, it's by Michael Jordan. And he says, once I made a decision, I never thought about it again. So he had, if you haven't watched his documentary with ESPN, I highly recommend going back and watching. I think it's called The Last Dance. And so it talks about his journey with the Bulls. And when he said it, I was like, dude, that's been like my life motto, like my whole entire life. So once I decide something, I literally don't think about that decision again. Now, are there times where I'm like, damn it, I wish I hadn't decided that. Absolutely. Like when you decide to meal prep and it's running into the holidays, yeah. Like I was like, damn, man, Thanksgiving's coming. But, you know, like I would say that the reason that it resonates with me so much is because I feel like there's a lot of chatter when you invite people into your mindset. And people don't know what your goals are. They don't know what your goals are with professionally, with fitness. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, you know, when I was like, oh, I'm going to work out every day, people were like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Well, why shouldn't I? You know, you don't know what it is that I do. Or just if you guys try to explain things to people, like how the method works, like how do you explain that? So how am I going to tell somebody who isn't really into the same thing that I'm doing? They don't have my experience. They don't know what I've seen. They don't know where I'm trying to go. I mean, there's no point in bouncing things off of them. So I'm very particular about who I share information with, like just a small group of very close friends. And I don't share a lot of things with my family, just saying, because they have their biases and their opinions too. And so when I decide to do something, that's it. And there's really nothing that's going to throw me off of that, even myself. So.
That's excellent. I love it. I'm going to start saying it too.
Yeah. Just do it. Just do it. Like Nike, just do it. Just make the decision and then just go with it. And then it'll happen.
Yeah, he's an excellent example. And you're totally right. The Last Dance it's fantastic. Fantastic. So Bianca, what is something that's important to you in your life that you would like to share with the Tamily that maybe we haven't talked about yet?
What's most important to me these days is my peace of mind, my family, of course, but yeah, I protect my peace so much, and what I mean by that is I don't argue with people. I'm an Aries, so I'm definitely ready to default to like an argument, or, you know, I like to go have a little back and forth and can be a little bit explosive sometimes and a high energy, but, you know, just peace in everything, peace in work, peace in my spirit. Like, I don't see a point in getting riled up about anything. And if I do start to feel like that, I'm like, well, what is it that's going on with me that's causing me to be, you know, triggered or whatever? And then even with how I deal in my relationships, it's the same thing, like with a level of peace and grace. And, you know, like I said, right next to that would be my family. If I haven't learned anything about anything during this pandemic, is how important the people are that are close to you. And not only that, telling them that, you know, give people their flowers now,
right?
And not later, you know, tell people that you appreciate them, and really to just be present and spread some of that peace, and not come from a place of judgment. So I feel like when you control your emotions and you come from a place of peace and grace, you can impart that on other people and really, like, you know, change the vibe in the room. So I just want to leave people better than I found them. So
yeah, that is
peaceful. Namastizzle.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think I could get anywhere near that without the method. Like, definitely the days when I'm like, I skipped it in the morning, something happens with work, I'm furious or whatever, and I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't do that workout. This is not that big of a deal.
Gotta do the method. It's balance, creating balance where there's imbalance.
So Bianca, are you prepared to play Two Truths and a Lie with us?
Dude, I'm so prepared.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So so here we go. I was an equestrian. I have a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. And I was a veterinary major.
Okay. The first one is an equestrian. The second one is a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. And the third one is a veterinary major. Okay. They all seem possible. Very, very possible. I don't know about the veterinary thing. I don't know what a blue belt is, but Courtney thinks 2 is the lie. Let's see what else anyone else thinks. Crystal thinks the equestrian thing is a lie. Emily thinks they're all true. Oh my gosh, I have to decide. I think I need to side with Courtney and go with 2 is the lie. But veterinary, like you seem super passionate about the hair lifestyle. I don't feel like that was new. Nicole also thinks jujitsu is a lie. But anything's possible. I mean, we're eating like a bodybuilder. Okay, Keith says 2 is the odd one out. Okay.
You know.
Yeah, Emily believes in you on that one.
Thanks, Courtney. You know,
Well,
don't run up on me in these streets. You know, I'm gonna be in New York, so
yeah,
come at me, bro.
there's
if you
no
want to.
doubt on that fact. You can definitely kick some ass. Okay, I think the consensus is around number 2, but Kristen thinks it's number 3. What's the truth?
So the truth is, I was a veterinary major in college, and I was an equestrian. I had horses and all of that. I am a white belt, or was a white belt in jiu-jitsu. I'm not a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. So I was doing jiu-jitsu before I started doing the method.
Okay. Somehow we evaded having that come out before the truth and a lie, which is good. I wasn't even sure if there really was a blue belt at all.
Yeah, it's like goes up to black. Okay. And then degrees of that, you know what I mean? So yeah, I was in my fitness journey. I did kickboxing, and then that led into jiu-jitsu. But I just didn't like my body being broken because I literally would hurt from just underneath my chin to the tops of my ankles.
Oh my God.
All the time. Yeah, and then by the way, like I'm in the beauty business, and I can't be walking around with no black eyes. You feel me? So it was just like on some vanity type stuff. I was like, I can't even do this.
Right. Like, oh my gosh, for sure. So back to the method a little bit. Did you face any challenges in your Tracy Anderson journey?
Did I?
Any specifics you want to share?
So my fitness background, so if you're new to the method and you've been doing these other, I'll say traditional things. I come from a sports family. So like I said, the jiu-jitsu, I was even doing bodybuilding at a certain point in time. I was a golfer for a lot of years. So it was a lot of, and so getting into the method, I was like a bull in a china shop. Like the extension and and I feel like Lashana to me is like the one that is so like airy, like a butterfly, but you're dying on the inside. And so I would say everything about the method challenged me, especially when I got into meta and the hydrants. Yeah, those were a little bit of a challenge, but the hydrant pull, this thing right here. And even to this day, like it still gets, like if we get into the routines and, we'll kind of get away from it a little bit. And then when we come back with it, like with a bunch of reps, like I'm all over the place and like, kind of falling and all of that. So yeah, like every single part of the method challenged me in the beginning to the point where I wouldn't say that I was going to quit, because once I decided to do it, I was like, I'm going to do it. But then it was like a competitiveness kicked in. I was like, I am not gonna let these fairy moves deter me from doing this. I am not gonna let this little lady on this mat make me leave. I'm like, I've been thrown around by grown men. I can do this. So yeah, every part of the method. When I tell you, like I say, I always listen to what the trainers are saying. Like I've gone through so much shoulder pain from just not being in the right place. So that's why I'm like huge on like just do what they say, like put your hands and arms where they need to go. Some of the high planks was another one that I was just like, I'm sorry, you want me to what? To put my leg up there? I'm like, how are they even doing that? Like it was, I remember the first time I even did fundamental, it was like, oh my, I just felt like I said, like a bull in the china shop. Like I just felt like I was just like a beast, just there was so much grunting, so much sweat. There was no performance. So yeah, that first 6 months of the method was real life. I really struggled, but I kept coming back.
So interesting though to hear that, because I was like not active at all, especially right before the method and at the most unfit space of my life. So I thought it's challenging for me because I'm unfit to hear, like, that it's challenging no matter where you're coming from, because it is different even if you've been dedicated to fitness and nutrition and doing other things. Like, it just really, it feels like, okay, we've all got this in common. It's not like some of these people come in and it's just, oh, this is going to be easy. It's not, because you don't know the, language of the method and everything.
And your muscles have to readjust.
Mm-hmm.
So I was used to building my muscles a certain way, and that takes a little bit of time to redo. So if you are new to the method and have a fitness background, like, it takes a second for you to start to see those results. So my arms weren't, like how they are now, and definitely like my abs were more in a boxy place. Like, I would say that's the biggest thing I've gotten from it. Like, even like I'm like doing it now. It's like I feel just more like open in my body and like stretched out. And even now there are certain, even in the hydrants, like I'll when I know I caught the angle, you can feel that openness that happens. Like, you can feel that expansion like instantly, and you're like, oh, I got it, that was it. But hell, it's been almost 3 years, for me to really get to that place where I'm like, okay, I feel it now in that particular place, how it was meant to, versus the, kind of the struggle, really. Like, you're kind of doing it, but it just hasn't quite clicked yet. So once it clicks, that just opens you up to a whole new thing. And then, if you're new to the method, I would say my knees took a beating in the beginning. Like, I had to upgrade my mat, like, those are things you don't really, think about, like, and my wrists and stuff, and like how to, weight transfers and all that. But you see it play out in the rest of your life, though, like just your day-to-day movement. Like, like I can hop up off the floor, whereas before I couldn't do that. Like, I'd be like, ugh, or just like, stand up out of a chair. I'd be like, oh, okay, now, like, get a running start. So, you start to see how it benefits you just in your day-to-day. But yeah, all of it was difficult in the beginning.
What's one thing in particular that you feel like you've learned from Tracy during this journey with the method?
You are what you eat, you are how you move. Now, when she says it, you're kind of like, okay, you just think of it in a fitness place. But the way that it plays out in your life, even like the way that I eat affects everything. It affects my skin. It affects my mindset. It affects how I feel about myself. And then the way that you move, like I was saying, like you learn these moves, and then you go out into society, or you go out and do your regular job, and you can see it and feel it in different aspects of just, I don't know, random things like cleaning your house and being able to stretch and feel like where that is. Or I listen to music while I meal prep, and I don't know how many people out there start doing standing abs. Like, you're like, oh, and you're like killing them with the shoulders, and then you're like, but I'm actually doing the abs too, and I'm like deeper in this move, and you're just, it really plays a role. And what I've noticed in connecting to a little bit more of the fluidity in the movement is I have fluidity in my thoughts. I have fluidity in how I address certain issues or how I operate with people. And there's a certain level of clarity that comes with the food part of it. Like, I don't have as much of the brain fog or the irritability, and there's just balance, like every single facet of it. Because in the beginning, like I said, I thought of it as just within the workout. Like, okay, well, if I eat good, the workout's better and I have better results. And if I'm moving a certain way, then I get better performance. But it really does translate into the rest of your life. It's an all-day, lifetime practice.
Absolutely. Do you use heat and humidity with your workout also?
I do. I just started doing that, though, this year, because I'm trying to gear up for these studios, although I'm like, this isn't going to be the same. It's not
right.
Like, I feel like when I walk in there, it's going to be like the first time we first moved to Atlanta, and you just like, like all the air just comes out of your body, and you're just like, it's so much water in the air. What am I going to do? It's hot. So that was, but yes, I do work out with the heat and humidity. And that is really, now I can't see not working out with the heat and humidity, because it helps your skin. Like, I'm a big skin person, and I was like, ooh, my skin looks better. But it makes it easier to transition from like arms into like the other movements because you never have a true cool down in between things. So it keeps you warm through the entire workout.
So have you not been to a studio yet?
I haven't. It's going to be my first time.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
I know, right?
When is it happening? Very soon?
Yes, next month. I'll be in New York 10/10 through 10/13.
Oh my gosh.
I know, I'm stoked.
We got to get
I'm staying right by the studio. I'm not trying to mess with their little rush hour with the trains and the walk-in and all that. Like, I can't even do all that. So when I got places to be, I need to be centered. So I'm like literally like right there. I'm on 58. The studio's on 59.
That's so cool. I can't wait for a Tamily meetup in New York City.
I know.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Okay, let me see what other questions that we have for you. What would be your advice to someone who is not new to the method, but they're not feeling motivated?
If you're not new, not feeling motivated, I would go to why you don't feel motivated. Like, what's going on right now? And, you know, like really have like a real check-in with yourself. Like there's check-ins with yourself, like, you know, day to day, but like really go and sit down with what's really going on. What's your schedule like? What's your work life like? What's your personal life like? Is there something off there? What point did you leave the method and why? And maybe you've just gotten too far away from it, or maybe you got hung up in a particular type of workout or not getting a certain type of result. Definitely reach out to the trainers, like there are, you know, like customer service and stuff. There's hasn't been a question that they haven't been able to answer. So, you know, when people go from, and myself included, and not just with like the method, but with working out, after I had my kids, my third kid, I hadn't been working out in years in that time that I was having babies and even before. So I was very, very sedentary, which wasn't like my normal lifestyle. So when I was thinking about, you know, getting back into fitness and, you know, getting my body back, I was like, well, when did I feel great? And at that time, I was in my 20s. I was 24, 27, and I was like, it's high school. When you're in your 20s, you're like, I felt great when I was a senior. But then I was like, well, what was I doing? So I was playing sports. I didn't necessarily work out in the gym all the time, but I was like always kind of playing games, and that's how I was, you know, into movement. And then that's how I got into kickboxing, and then it just kind of went from there. So, you know, it's, if you're feeling unmotivated, what was going really well for you when you were motivated? And with the method specifically, what about it at the time period? Like, was it really the method, or was it something going on? Because I will say there's times where I've gotten off the mat or during a workout where I've been just like falling in tears because of whatever is going on in my life. But through some of these movements, like, you start to unlock different parts of yourself. And so you start to like open things up and get things out of you emotionally that you didn't even know were there. So sometimes it's not really the method that was the problem. It was that maybe you were, you know, kind of going through something and it triggered something. But I just say revisit yourself and what's really going on, a real check-in.
Excellent advice. Emily has a little bit more of a career question for you. She wants to know how you got into teaching on stage.
They just throw you out there, honestly. So, yeah, I started teaching, I would say, in the beauty business. So I've been a hairstylist for 17 years, and I've always been an education person, you know, in the salon. And I work for Ulta Beauty right now. And so when I got with them, I got into even more education, but had been doing that in salons already. And, you know, I started going through more certifications. And when you are learning to teach, you know, other hairdressers, it's, you know, it's just different. You have to really get into like a facilitation style. And so, you know, they have you come on stage and you present. And so when I say stage, it's not always like a stage of a bunch of people, although I've stood in front of rooms of a lot of people. But sometimes that could be like a really small, like intimate setting too. So I got into it because when you're a person that delivers information or teaches, you are on stage all the time, whether you want to be or not. So even if you're in the salon, you still are, you know, that person. So really it was But to be on an actual stage, yeah, because they were like, all right, we used to call it the heat. They throw you out there and you're like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to do this haircut. And so, yeah, you get used to it. It's fun. You know, some people, it freaks them out. But for me, it's always been like a fun thing.
Well, you definitely have a good presence, especially through Instagram. So I'm sure you are also a good trainer. So, any other tidbits you want to share with the Tamily about the workout or even about the world of hair or anything like that?
The world of hair. You guys have questions about hair? I would say just like stick with it. Be consistent with the method. That when people, and even in some of these forums that I'm on, with in Facebook and things like that, when people have complaints, it's usually because of a lack of consistency. Like they're just not doing it. They're like, oh, I do this, but then I also do CrossFit and like all these other things. And again, like, try to dial down the noise that's around you and really just focus on what you really want. And you really, it sounds cliche and like guru goody, but like you really do have all the answers like within yourself. You just kind of have to shut things off and figure that out on your own. But consistency is key.
And that is such good advice that it's inside of you. I think that's, the biggest part of the journey with Tracy is that it's about you knowing your body and yourself.
Exactly.
So Lisa has a question for you. She said, what area are you in? I need some help with my hair.
So I am south of Atlanta. So I live in the burbs out here south of Atlanta, but I do hair out of Noonan, Georgia, which is about 30 minutes south of the city. Okay. So, my hairdressing career, I'm transitioning into other things. So, I've been doing this for a while. I'll never not be a hairdresser. But I like to tell people, I used to work in town. I spent most of my career in town. And now I'm just like, if you've seen Star Wars, I'm like Luke Skywalker. I'm just like kind of over here on this island, kind of doing my Jedi thing. I got these cool little animals that I talk to. And, I'm just kind of out here, in the country doing my thing. People come to me for advice, but it's like a trip, So they find me and I have a really good clientele here. And I'm just over here being quiet and peaceful.
Well, Lisa said she knows where that is. So
yeah, man, come on down. I'm there Wednesday through Saturday.
Well, it's been super fantastic talking to you, Bianca. You're definitely a super inspirational member of the Tamily, and watching the balance that you have with kids and meal prep and the workout and work is absolutely inspirational. So it's been awesome getting to know you a little bit more.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel humbled and inspired, and I love the Tamily. And like I said, it's a group of people that it was an extra bonus. I didn't even know that existed. I just started out wanting to look better and age in reverse like Jennifer Lopez, and it turned into a whole family and community of people that are so inspirational and supportive and loving. And so I really appreciate you and everything that you guys do.
Oh, thank you so much for being interview 165.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, Tamily.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Thanks.